Hello and welcome to another episode of Alan Revises. We're going to be continuing on with a look at Injustice Club, a comic book comedy, and let's see where we can go from here. Recently, we finally got the gang together. We've got Tex Tudor, we've got other individuals, Yartley Prynne. If these names are sounding a little familiar, they probably are. So, anyway, it's a comic book. We've got a band of supervillains getting together to do a heist of some sort to retrieve an artifact that will let the Tex Tutor do something or other with his nemesis. Moving on. However, now that they've got a plan, they've got to execute it. So, interior, Tex Tutor's office. Fidelia closes the door to Tex's office, isolating the others from herself and Tex. Tex heads towards his bathroom, then pauses. The chunks of walls are fixed, and the towel that Nakara had used has been replaced. She's been in there. And I don't know what we're really showing here. This feels intuitive to me to have him pause and be suspicious. I think it's in his nature to be suspicious and worrisome, because as with all superpowered individuals, he's got a tendency to envy. You can call it envy, not greed, but envy. Fidelia, they purified it while we were out. They purified it. They purified. Turns toward Fidelia. I know, but she's a Venusian. The things I know about them are limited at best. Fidelia, sir, you can't let her rattle you. Just treat her like you do Yartley. Tex begins to pace, circuiting the whole of the room. Fidelia patiently stays at the center. Would that I could, for then I might laugh. They are trouble, all of them. Swift's reply to my varied offers were, I shall consider it. Why he decided to come in and why he truly decided to come, I don't know. Angel owes me no loyalty at all. Menixa is clearly in this solely for what I can provide, and who knows what Yartley really wants in the end. I thought things were going well. I can feel it slipping away. The Ultimate has already been warned about Indril. He'll talk to Owatonna, or worse, Istanbul. Obviously, those character names flinches at Istanbul's name. Fidelia, how can I help you take back control? Tex rubs the bridge of his nose and thinks. Tex tutors, he'd be a sounding board for me. She agrees, of course. I can't run this like a business meeting, can I? Fidelia nods. These are not my underlings. Fidelia, is it a meeting of equals then, or even friends? Tex tutor, Nakara's game is showing. She said she wanted this to be a Gen X comedy. Fidelia, she did, but she couldn't possibly have been serious. I don't know. How it galls me to say that. Let me deal with her. Tex tutor, my dear Fidelia, you can't take her out like the trash. Looks to her. People still do that, don't they? Other people. The metaphor holds. Perhaps I should ask Swift to kill her. Would he do it? Could he do it? Both are good questions. Interior, bathroom, day. Nakara plucks gum out of Yartley's hair as the mad woman looks into the mirror. Each piece comes away cleanly. As the two... We'll have both of them. As the two look into the mirror. Each piece comes away cleanly. It's my fault, really. The packets look so much alike. Nakara, that's the problem with eyes. Yartley Prynne, we should make all the balloons out of it. Nakara, out of... Yartley giggles at that and turns to face her. Wow, look at those peepers. Mr. Ray says you can tell a lot from a person's eyes. Their whole life if you take your time. But I don't bother with spoons. Nakara, what about forks and knives? Yartley pulls out a pen. Hey, do you want to see a magic trick? Lenixa and Indro talk quietly at one end of the conference room, which means that the serpent we seek may be contained within. A flash of red lightning heralds the return of Swift with a clothing sack, whatever. The clothing sack and a bag of pastries in either hand. He offers the clothing to Intro and the bag to Lenixa. Thank you again, my friend. Takes the sack. I thought this would be warmer. Air friction. Swift, you know nothing of my power. Intro agrees and heads off to change. Lenixa pokes the bag. Not that I mind, but people are always trying to feed me. Don't cats need to eat regularly? Cats know how to feed themselves. Beside them, Endril extracts a pair of boots and jacket from the sack and prepares to slip them on. Lenixa takes hold of the bag of pastries. She and Swift's fingers brush. Swift vibrates. Around them, the world fades into shadow. Lenixa, how long do we have? Swift, in a more ordinary voice. Not long. Who do you trust? No one, except perhaps you. Swift, I feel the same. Endril is pleasant, but only for now. Yardley is herself alone, and Nakara, alien. Precisely. Swift is speaking as a friend here. And I have to have them do that because it has to get across the fact that they are, in fact, friends. They don't pretend to be like that, but they, for reasons. I have traveled both forward and back for centuries. The Venusians are always elusive and rarely announce themselves. Lenixa says, shape-shifting telepaths tend to be eccentric and cagey. She also has a mysterious stepmother of hers. That worries me. Somebody's playing an interesting game. It sounds like a distant note in a forgotten opera. Lenixa, why are you here? You're who I'd want in a tight spot, but don't you know the future? Tex won't kill the Altman today, will he? Test, maybe, but kill? Swift, no spoilers. What about a certain Argentinian princess? Swift chuckles honestly and withdraws his hand. The moment he ceases to touch the bag, to touch her, the world brightens back up. Endril is still in the midst of extracting his boots. The laces give him pause. I may need some help with these things. Tex emerges from his office, trailed by Fidelia. Time's up. How are we all? Yardley bounds out of the adjacent bathroom and plops into a chair, which predictably wheels off into the corner. Nakara exits as well with a hand over one eye. When she takes it away, a pen is in her hand, and for a moment her eyes do not blink in sequence. Text tutor. So, Yardley wheels her chair back to the table. Everyone else takes a seat except Swift. Because Swift never sits. That's just going to be his thing. Text tutor takes a seat. We have a mission to outline and prepare. To Swift. Will you sit? Swift does not respond. Very well. The balloons will go up and come back down. It will appear to casual eyes this is just another Yardley act because she'll be seen at the release site. Intercut, the ideal heist and the reality conference in comic book format. So we're going to have a bit of drawing here amid the movie. A full color comic book flips opens to reveal their plan of action. A host of balloons rise in the air as an idealized Yardley plane holds a machine gun to keep a small crowd at bay while a crew of balloon technicians work. To keep a crowd at bay. With bells on, big bells. Yardley now wears lots of jingly bells, the kind that ring all the time so that no one can't notice it's not me. Back in the conference room, everyone chews on that grammar/thought. Nakara gestures to Lenixa. Return to comic format. Reality. Return to reality. Return to comic book form. Alright, so there we go. That's just so that they know what's going on. Lenixa, after the explosives set off alarms all over the explosives set off alarms all around the city. Myself and Endril will make our way to the private depository dressed as security personnel. Out in the city, Lenixa and Endril, dressed as button-down security types, pull up outside a blind-looking depository. Tex, voiceover. They're going to notice. A guard inside worriedly picks up the phone. Why? Because when explosions go off, this kind of thing that people look for these days. Pages of the comic book flip. Let's revise then, shall we? As Texter says. By the depository, Lenixa and Endril are replaced by Nakara, who saucily radiates suspicion. Nakara will be the decoy, assigned to draw off suspicion and if need be, run off. Police lights flare. Nakara departs hastily. Lenixa, voiceover. I see. Then Endril and myself arrive. The guards, having already chased off the attempt, will be relaxed later when an official visit is made. Lenixa and Endril have no problem entering the facility. In the comic book conference room, Tex pours himself a tall glass of water. The sound of the same is in the background. In So we both have both sides of reality, both the movie and the comic book. That's pretty neat. I like that. Um, Feels new to me. Anyway, I trust that would be that you would be able to escape any entanglements. Nikara merely smiles. Once inside, we retrieve the item, Indril asks. Within the repository, Indril and Linuxa inspect various doors. All are sealed. Some glow with evident wards. Linuxa says, a tricky bit of business given the renter. Back to scene. Which means we leave the comic book behind. Tex sets down his glass. I haven't told you who rents the depository. Linuxa, you don't have to. No matter who you name, it will be tricky. Who do we have for backup? Tex 2 says, Swift, and if she returns in time, Nikara. Linuxa, any chance to have them go in first? Indril, what good would that do? Neither is magic adept. Nikara leans forward to regard Linuxa. If you're worried, we could swap. Linuxa blinks at that. Swap? Oh, are you saying? Oh, sorry, old character name. I changed Nikara from somebody else. Just like that. Indril, I am fairly certain we will not need to swap minds. However, briefly. Though now I am intrigued. Who uses the repository? Text 2, the truth is, I don't exactly know. The owner is listed as T. Hunter, but anyone can scroll a name. He, assuming it is a he, paid cash in advance for Fidelia, 32. Text 2, 32 years, less 5 days. Swift, T. Hunter, not R. Hunter? Text tutor, is that a problem? Swift says, it could have been, and it might still be. Where precisely am I in all this? Text tutor, close by and in reserve. You must be prepared to act if anything should go wrong with Yardley or the insertion team. Now then, questions? Yardley raises her hand eagerly. Text tutor, about the preparations? Yardley lowers her hand with a bit of a pout. Then let's discuss the details over lunch. And now we get to go to lunch. Awesome. Because there's nothing like, I don't want they could sit around the boardroom table forever. But that will get boring, and if you've ever seen scenes that try to make it look exciting, very difficult, very difficult. So we're doing a variation on the walk and talk. We're just at least shifting things around and giving the illusion of movement so that we can keep things going. Starting like the mighty individuals are, the group enters the banquet hall where a mighty buffet away. We're equally a prodigious. Let's call it prodigious. In a comic book, you can never use really too many superlatives. I mean, you can, but you have to work at it. There are no servants, however, and the vast space seems rather cavernous. Text tutor, ordinarily I entertain on fine china and with sterling silver, but the fewer who know of us at present the better, and as I understand it, several of you have dietary requirements that. Text turns to find that Swift, Linuxa, and Indril are still at the threshold. Linux, Mr. Tudor, it isn't as though I don't appreciate the offer, but that incident last year really put me off dining with you. Indril, Eel has forbidden me to... The black eel. Eel has forbidden me to eat from your table. My apologies. Swift, poison is a possibility with you. Tex glowers at the three. Nikara edges forward. I could sample every dish to discern if it is poisoned. Linuxa, do you know that much about humans? Nikara concedes the point. Possibly. Would you believe me if I said there was enough cyanide in the spinach to kill a grown man? Linuxa, well, I wouldn't have seconds. Tex restrains himself. Yardley proceeds to do cartwheels over to the buffet. Yardley Prynne, I'm going to eat. If I die, it's poisoned. Linuxa, go ahead. We don't all have your generous botany friends to give us immunities. Swift abruptly leaves in a flash of red lightning. Indril looks to Linuxa. Can you tell me more about this dining incident last year? Linux said there isn't much to say. Tex set up a rival, fed him dinner, and then, well, figure it out. Nikara turns to Tex. Why not try something like that with the Ultimate? Wouldn't even a tiny bit of kryptonite in the lining of his stomach? No, Tex Tutor says. You could coat it in lead. Time to dissolve when... Tex Tutor, no, he must be vanquished. Do you understand? It's not enough to kill him. I have to do it, and he has to know I've done it. Nothing else will suffice. Swift returns in a flurry of red lightning and deposits 2 sacks, dozens, a plethora. Let's just call it a plethora of fast food sacks. onto one of the nearby tables along with several drink containers. And if we have product placement in this movie, now's the time. So Tex waves an exasperated hand towards the assembled group. Eat what you want to eat. Tex leaves. Fidelia trails silent behind. Indol considers the array of decadent food. This is decadent. Linuxa prowls over to the fare. It smells good, doesn't it? Stuffed with sugar and fat. I love being a cat. Swift leans against a nearby wall, watching Indol. Indol gives him a little nod and seats himself. You took a nice cross section. Lots of big belly burgers, though. Lots of big burgers. I like them. Will you not eat? Already did. I do not wish to be discourteous, but if we are to share a table, Swift gestures, Indol tosses him a sack at random, and Swift removes a portion of his mask, revealing a human mouth. Indol seems intrigued by this, Linuxa far less so. Yardley returns with a heap of food. Nakara is close behind with a plate in either hand. Yardley Prynne with Nakara, thank you. What? We say together. Is it a metabolic thing? Nakara, not for me, but I guess quicklings burn up casualties. Linuxa. Quicklings? Don't you mean speedsters? Yes and no. Yardley Prynne as she eats. Did I miss something? I think I did. Swift, just the usual table banter. Shouldn't we break up into smaller groups to better plot against Tex Tutor? Nakara, okay. Yardley, as you can do these. Ooh, I've got a hat for that. I'll trade it for the jacket. Can't. I'm attached to it. Which is true because her clothing is essentially her. It just looks nice. Nakara, how long have you been here on Earth? Nakara, 3 days. I've learned a lot. Not as much as you with all that. Nilecta doesn't misbeat antiques, artifacts, and archaeology. But I am a light person. I'm a people person. Nakara, yeah, you've been subtly steering things like a champ despite Tex's best efforts. The others, except Nakara, look to Yardley. Yardley Prynne, haven't you noticed? She's been playing with him this whole time, being helpful assistant 1 minute, though Fidela's really got a lock on that, then playing the contrarian when someone needs to say something, dropping hints to sow discord but patching it up right afterwards so that we have to rely on her for that later. Nakara, that's very perceptive. Then Linuxa to Yardley, I can't believe you would just say that out loud. It's very... Yardley grins as she plays with her food. Linuxa says, Yardley of you. Yardley Prynne, I know. Oh, you're giving me that concerned look of yours. Linuxa, just that of all the people at this table, little gesture to encompass Swift too, you are the most fragile. Yardley prepares to dig into her meal. Indol to Yardley, why are you even here? Swift, she is clarity when all is smoke and haze. Yardley Prynne, and I got an invitation. Indol, Tex Tutor wanted you here? Does he prize insanity? Yardley Prynne, it's the world that's crazy. She considers her plate. Why are you mad at me, Indy? I'm not the one who sold you out to the law. Indol blinks in confusion. Nakara can't help but smile. Only a Venusian can. Nakara to Yardley. I knew I liked you. Linuxa glances at Nakara. Really? Yardley flashes her teeth as only a mad woman could. Swift. Wait. Indol to Nakara. I was sold out? By you? Linuxa, understanding dawning. It makes sense. She knew what happened to you so very quickly. Even telepathy has limits. Swift. Yes, the timing, of course. How could she have reacted to events and still be here unless she initiated the sequence? Nakara to Indol. I needed to prove my worth to Tex. You're Atlantean, right? You understand. You're Atlantean, right? You'll understand. You understand. You understand treachery. You understand treachery. Indol's two tattoos flare bright beneath his clothing as he lets his Atlantean magics flow. So, from lunch to something else. But we cut to interior Tex Tutor's office day. Tex Tutor sits before a bottle of aged brandy, a half-filled glass beside it. Fidela passes over an ice pack, but as Tex accepts it, she tilts her head slightly toward the receiver in here. Tex Tutor looks up. What is it? Before Fidela can reply, a rumble rises through the building. Interior hallway. Tex strides down the corridor. Fidelia has her pistol out as she ranges before him. Has her Impressive pistol. It is an impressive pistol. At the door to the banquet room, a team of heavily armored security agents lurks with weapons ready. The lead agent carries a handheld monitor and observes a chaotic fight replete with eldritch flashes of blue and a figure in black. The nearby door thumps noticeably in rhythm to the battle beyond. To the battle beyond. Holds up a hand. All goes quiet. Team prepares to breach. All goes quiet. Tex gestures. Fidelia kicks on the door. Fidelia storms inside. Tex strides inside afterward. The security team stays out of sight. In the center of the now ruined banquet hall, Indra pulses with fierce energies as he manipulates numerous magical tendrils, each the color of the deep sea, as they strive to constrain each of those strive to constrain Nikara by ankle, wrist, and neck. Nikara seems to consider this foreplay. She's a shapeshifter. Have fun. Lennox is coiled nearby, ready to spring. Swift still leans against the wall. Yardley has a custard pie ready. Tex tutor, what's all this then? Indra flicks a glance towards Tex and moves his lips to speak. In that instant, Nikara flows up the watery tendril like a serpent, and a set of glistening fangs pierce Indra's wrist. Indra tries to but it is too late. His eyes flicker, magic falters, and he collapses into Nikara's arms. Tex tutor Swift. Swift doesn't move. Fine. Lenexa. Lenexa springs before Nikara, ready and deadly. Lenexa, you can't kill him. We need him. But he may die if I don't inject the antidote. Lenexa gestures with a claw back towards Tex without taking her eyes off Nikara. Tex tutor, we need him. We need you. We need everyone, or I need nothing. Understood? Nikara swings an eye Tex's way and gives a little nod. At Tex's gesture, Lenexa backs off. Nikara looks down at Indra. The sorcerer is not looking very well at all, pale with a reddish flicker among his tattoos. Nikara lays a finger alongside one of Indra's primary neck arteries. This is one of his neck arteries. There's only a few. A soft hiss is heard. Indra remains unconscious. Lenexa, how long does it take for the antidote to work? Nikara, not long, once I give it to him. Lenexa blinks at that, then shoots a worried glance at Tex. Tex lets out a concerned grunt, because obviously she injected him with something. I need to specifically call out that she injected something. As a writer, I knew what that was, but again, readers are different. Nikara lays a different finger on the other the opposite artery. A split second later, Indra flails back to consciousness. Indra, speaking Atlantean to Nikara, you motherless crustacean, I'll hollow your skull. The next to Indra, hey, take it easy. The next Indra doesn't comprehend. After a moment of thought, he touches a dark tattoo and brings it back to life. Indra, I am fine. No, you are Indra, Nikara says. Nikara eases away. Lenexa helps Indra to his feet. What was that you said? It sounded like Atlantean. I forgot my English. Nikara, you don't speak the English. That tattoo is a telepathic translator. I know because I've heard him skipping accents for some time now. Tex tutor. Well, that's interesting. Yardley sits down her custard pie with a sigh. I know I want one. Or do the tats talk all the time? It is how I found him. Indra's eyes widen. Ah, the last piece falls into place, says Swift. Tex tutor looks around the room. Have we all been filled in with Nikara's treachery? Everyone seems to think so except Lenexa. Not yet. What was the other injection you gave Indra? Nikara, a slow-acting fungal agent. If he isn't given the proper polyene molecule every 4 hours, it will slowly eat away at the walls of every blood vessel he has. You're the print. Oh. Indra, you, Nikara in Atlantean, motherless crustacean. Texture, enough. Has everyone had enough? Yes? Ignores Yardley and her next pie. Let us focus on why we are here and not the quality of dessert. Return to the conference room. Nikara, a word? The others leave. Indra pauses briefly before Tex. Indra, the current situation is intolerable and must change. Tex tutor, I will bargain for your life and pay the price myself. Indra is a little shocked by the promise, but offers over a grateful nod to Tex in parting. At last, Tex and Nakara are left alone, save for Fidelia, who fades into the background, as good bodyguards do. Fading into the foreground, on the other hand, is much more difficult. So, Nakara considers an abandoned pie like a Renaissance artist pondering an expansive marvel. Text tutor, who taught you to be human? Nakara, surprised. My stepmother. She spent 2 whole days on it. Text tutor, maybe she could have tried 3. Nakara has to agree. Not. In case, would have been better. Indicates this would have been better. And so in text, she knows she's not doing well as a human. Text tutor, so the antidote? Nakara, there isn't one. I lied. Text considers that. His eyes flicker with the possibilities. Nakara is captivated. Text tutor. There is no poison. That's the gist of it. All right, go and put in a paragraph on there. Smiles. Text tutor, thank you for the leverage, but I didn't need it. However, what do you want in return? Nakara, I'd like to know more about the telepathic weapon you're going to trade for recovering the artifact. That serpent of the sticks thingy. Text blinks. Nakara, you needed a telepath, and one of Indrel's tattoos is effectively a form of telepathy. Text tutor, the artifact I want to exchange with Black Leo isn't a weapon, and its purpose isn't something I will share until after the exchange is made. That means no one learns anything more unless the heist succeeds. Nakara, it's a deal. Nakara holds out a hand to shake in a perfect textbook manner. Tex said turns to go, pauses, and looks back. Instead, considers her. Sir, I wonder, do you like opera? Nakara glances over at the buffet, confused. Tex gives a little chuckle. Never mind, we'll talk later. Tex heads for the door. Fidelia gives Nakara a hard stare before she falls in a step behind her boss. Nakara seems to take no mind. After a moment, she stands up and heading toward the buffet. Swift, off screen. I wondered if your armor had chinked. Nakara turns to find Swift waiting silently. Nakara, nothing is without flaw. There are cracks all over. Swift agrees and darts forward in a burst of red lightning. Alright. Interior, service corridor, day. Swift snaps into view, having carried Nakara and breadroll to a stretch of hallway filled with exposed wires, construction leavings, and janitorial equipment. Nakara idly touches the breadroll, finds it cool. Oh. Swift, who are you? With deliberate nonchalance, Nakara consumes the breadroll with her hand. Are we alone? Like a ventriloquist. Are we alone? Possibly. Who are you? That depends who is asking. Swift's hands begin to vibrate, cutting the very air. Nakara, my mother named me Nikasaran de Landamara. My stepmother showed me how to shorten it. Swift, you mentioned her. Who is she? Why did she arrange for you to be here? Nakara breathes out. She has her reasons. Swift's eyes glow red. I had found a way to Earth, but it was she who welcomed me. Of her I know little, for her mind was closed to me except as she allowed. So many memories she shared, though she shared many memories and sorrows. Swift gives a little cough as if to draw Nakara's attention back. Nakara, why am I here? That's the next question, and all I can say is I am enjoying myself. Swift coughs again. His hand ceases to vibrate. He takes an unsteady step backward. Nakara, and as I said, she taught me many things. Swift's point of view. Swift sees Nakara, her lips curving toward an inhuman grin. Everything goes dark. Later. Nakara, off screen, wakey wakey. The darkness peels back to reveal Nakara looming overhead, her eyes glowing. The world lurches as Swift tries to stand. Nakara, slowly now. She taught me to craft a poison inside my own lungs, which I shared with you. Swift blinks, but you still live. Can you trust me now? Back to regular point of view. Swift props himself up against the wall, intrigued. Intrigued despite himself. Nakara, my stepmother insisted that I attend Tex Tutor's meeting. She said you'd understand because the two of you had, or will meet soon enough. She said you'd understand because the two of you had, or will meet soon enough. Swift, more time travel then. And what was the code phrase for me? Nakara, what? Oh, you think you would have told her something to tell you now? Well, if you'd like, I could pluck it from your head. Swift, true. As much as I do it, I detest time travel. It should be impossible, and for good reason. Nakara, a lot of things are like that, but we live with them anyway. Swift considers her. After a moment, he pushes himself to his feet, and then swifts off. And then races off. Nakara sighs and recovers the bread roll she had hidden earlier, the whole of it seemingly untouched by, I don't know what I'm doing with the bread roll. Okay, fine, she's got a bread roll, or a second bread roll she had hidden earlier. The whole of it, okay. Nixa and Indril pour over an antique paper blueprint of the storage unit they plan to raid. But even assuming we get in easily, it will take us far too long to walk this area on foot, and given that what we are interested in might be boxed up, Indril, I have a means of detecting the object. Linuxa, range on that? Indril, I am uncertain. The item's metallic mind may be dormant or shielded. Linuxa considers the plans. That's better than nothing. At the elsewhere in the conference room. Yardley draws her picture of balloons popping and blowing up all over the city. In one corner, she draws a caricature of the Moose Man swooping down ineffectually. Tex peers at her artistry. Tex Tudor, surely you don't believe he'd be here. This is not Gotham. Yardley printed. If there's one thing I've learned is that the Moose Man shows up in the strangest of places. Swift returns in a flash, far too close to Tex for Fidelia's taste. Swift, how important is this to you, Tudor? Tex Tudor, there is nothing more important to me than defeating the Altman. While he lives, the future of Earth is in peril. Looks at the open doorway opposite. Did you kill her? Swift disappears in a flash of red lightning without answering. Yardley print. He sure is a strange one. She passes over the drawing. Here, for your refrigerator. And now we're going to do, we'll leave it here for the next part. Things have happened. There was treachery. There was a fight. There was hopefully some good comedy, and things have progressed. And hopefully the audience will retain some interest in this, as it feels like things are continuing to go. When we next meet, we'll get this going because we're about halfway done. And that means there have to be more turnings. More things have to develop and change. There's really a pacing to this for most films. If you're going to make a 2-hour film, the changes happen at certain intervals, or else again boredom ensues, and we don't want that. So this has been Alan Revises, and we're dealing with the Injustice Club, and I hope you have enjoyed this little stretch of screenplay. That is certainly not entirely fan fiction based on anything else. So, I would hope you have been having a good time, and I will see you next time. Thanks.